My name is Lucas. I'm 39 years old. I used to work as a tactical coach for a special forces unit based in Texas. 3 months ago, a training accident cut my career short. A piece of metal flew off an armored vehicle and hit me in the lower abdomen. Not fatal, but serious enough that the doctors recommended I retire. I left the military before my medical records could even be processed into a mandatory discharge order. After 2 weeks in the hospital and nearly a month of rehab, I booked a flight home. My plane touched down in Portland on a gloomy Thursday afternoon. Oregon's never known for sunshine, but that day carried a deeper kind of cold. I didn't bring much, just a canvas duffel bag, a few sets of clothes, and some military paperwork I hadn't returned yet. I didn't think I'd feel nervous coming back to a home I'd lived in for over a decade. When the plane landed, I turned my phone on. No messages. Nothing from my wife, Sophia. We'd been married for 14 years, teen. 2 kids, Noah, 16, and Lily, 14. Both in high school now, obsessed with sports, social media, and, if I had to guess, probably drifting away from me for a while now. I was about to text Sophia something simple like, "Just landed." But I didn't get the chance. There was already a message waiting. It was just a few lines. She told me not to come home. She said it was over, that the kids didn't want to see me, that the locks had been changed, that I should focus on living my own life. I read it again and again. At first I thought it was a mistake, maybe a cruel prank. But no, it was from Sophia's number. It sounded exactly like her when she shut all emotion off. No explanation, no warning signs, no build-up. Just an ending, cold, like a stone sinking into water. I didn't send some long emotional response, just typed 3 words. Your call then. In the Army, I was the guy who stayed calm when everything else went to hell. When younger soldiers panicked, I held the line. When plans fell apart, I drew new ones. I'd learned to keep my emotions locked away. That instinct didn't vanish. Even when my personal life blew up in the middle of an airport terminal, I didn't go home. I didn't check in at the hospital. I called Erica Shaw, a divorce attorney in Portland. I'd met years ago during a buddy's nasty asset split. She asked when I could come in. I said, as soon as possible. 2 hours, tops. The cab ride took me through soaked city streets. Portland's always damp in the fall, but all I saw were blurred raindrops sliding down the window. Only one question ran through my head. When did she decide this? And why wait until I got out of the hospital? I met Erica right on time. Her office was in a glass building downtown. No small talk, no fluff. She let me talk for 10 minutes, then opened her laptop. Her fingers typed like someone who's dealt with messy breakups for a living. She laid out the first steps. Freeze the joint accounts, shut off the credit cards, cancel recurring payments, and prep a proactive divorce filing. I didn't say I was certain, but I had a hunch there was someone else. Could be an old flame, could be someone new. I needed to know. Not out of jealousy. I just needed to understand what kind of person I was about to go up against. That night, I didn't go back to a hotel. I went to see Marcus, an old friend from the academy. He runs a cybersecurity firm now and occasionally helps me dig when I need answers. When I called, he didn't ask why, just asked what I needed. I told him, I need to know who's been coming to my house, what car, what times, how often. He didn't even have to leave his desk. My neighborhood has an automatic gate system with license plate cameras. Footage gets stored for 30 days, if you know how to access it. Marcus does. He pulled the logs, filtered by date and address. Took him maybe 30 minutes. Then he turned the laptop toward me. One entry was marked in red, a silver BMW, California plates. Same car. Showed up 6 times in the past 2 weeks. Always between 7 and 10 p.m. No early departures. Stayed overnight at least 3 times. Marcus pulled stills from the gate camera. One image showed the man getting out. Gray shirt, tall leather bag in hand. Sophia opened the gate. She smiled, placed a hand on his back as they walked in together, like a couple who'd done this 100 times. I looked through each photo. Didn't say a word. Not because I was shocked, not because I was hurt, but because I'd already felt this coming. The puzzle pieces were just finally locking into place. Tomorrow, I'd start my plan. I woke up at 6 a.m. even though I barely slept the night before. The emotional chaos had passed. My mind had locked onto one thing: uncover the truth and protect what's mine, especially my kids. That same morning, I went back to Erica's office, this time with documents, joint account statements, the last 3 months of family expenses, bank transfers, and a list of jointly registered assets. I wasn't sure what I was looking for exactly, but I knew one thing. In any battle, whoever strikes first always leaves traces. Erica scanned through everything fast. She flagged a few large transactions. Then she paused at 3 money transfers, each spaced roughly 10 days apart. Each one was just under $70,000. All from our joint account, the one both Sophia and I had access to, both of us legally tied to. The person who made the transfers? Sophia. The recipient? A real estate company called Vista Verde Developments registered in Panama. A quick search was all Erica needed to find out who legally represented the company: Derek Vaughn, the same man caught on camera entering my house 6 times in 2 weeks. Erica didn't need more proof to connect the dots. Sophia was pulling money from our shared account and wiring it to her affair partner, possibly as an investment, or maybe just to fund their new life together. In legal terms, this was misappropriation of marital assets, using shared marital funds for personal reasons before assets are officially divided. I didn't care about her personal accounts. I didn't need her trust fund or inheritance. I just needed to prove she used our money to finance an escape plan with another man, and that alone gave me grounds to strike back. Within an hour, Erica drafted the asset freeze motion. We filed an emergency order with the court, requesting to temporarily block all outgoing transactions from the joint account and to initiate clawback proceedings if fraud was suspected. Given the evidence, the court was likely to approve it. I didn't want Sophia to know yet. As long as she thought she was still in control, I had time. Time to figure out what exactly they were planning. I called Marcus again, asked if he could keep tracking anything tied to Derek. I needed to know where the money was going. If this was a laundering scheme, it had to stop. If it was a real project, I needed to know what kind of risk my kids might be dragged into if they were taken overseas. Marcus put me in touch with Calvin Ruiz, a private investigator who used to do financial intelligence work for the FBI. Calvin could dig deeper, through offshore structures, shell companies, and business accounts. Within 3 days, he found something troubling. Vista Verde Developments was a shell company. No actual operations in Panama. Its headquarters was a co-working address with no staff, no local investment activity. But it did own the branding for something called Villa Serena, a beachfront resort in Costa Rica currently raising funds on several international brokerage sites. Calvin sent me images from their 3D renderings: oceanfront villas, infinity pools, palm-shaded walkways. All of it existed only in glossy brochures. Government records from Guanacaste, where the land was supposed to be, showed no building permits, no official zoning plans, and the land still owned by the government. I compared the shiny mock-ups with satellite images on Google Earth. The real location? A scrubby hill covered in dry brush. Nothing but dust and rocks. Sophia had just wired over $200,000 of marital funds into that. Calvin found one more thing. Sophia and Derek were in the process of submitting school applications for my kids to an international academy in Costa Rica. The forms listed a planned start date in January, right after winter break. That meant they were planning to take Noah and Lily out of the country in under 2 months. The kids had no idea. To them, I was just the dad who'd been gone too long. Now I was about to be replaced by someone smoother, someone who talked better, gave cooler gifts, and hadn't missed birthdays. I couldn't let that happen. Not when I'd just come home. Not when there was still a chance to make things right. I returned to Erica, this time with a different request: petition the court for a temporary travel restriction on both kids until the divorce was finalized. The grounds were simple. There were signs that one parent was planning to move the children out of the country without legal consent from the other. In Oregon, that was more than enough for a judge to consider it within 72 hours. We filed that same day. As I left her office, I stood by the glass door for a while. Portland rain had returned. Late autumn rains always felt heavier, colder, more relentless. I wondered if Sophia had any idea what was coming. Maybe not. Maybe she still thought she had everything in her hands. But that hand was starting to shake. It took me a week to get Noah's school and practice schedule. His high school was still in the same district we used to live in. The football coach was someone I'd met a couple of times before. I didn't call ahead, just showed up early, sat in my car, and waited outside the athletic center. The sky was gray, the ground damp, the air thick with the smell of rust from the field's metal posts. Noah was the last to come out, shoulders slightly tense, carrying his backpack. Quiet, focused steps. He looked exactly like me at his age. Except I had chosen that kind of solitude. He hadn't. When I called his name, he froze. His eyes went wide, then dropped. But I saw it, a flicker of emotion, something heavier than just surprise. He didn't run up to me. He didn't walk away either. Just stood there, like he was silently asking, "Why now?" We sat on a bench near the field. No one around, no ears, no judgment. I started with small talk, awkward bits of nothing, the kind a father uses when he has no idea where to begin. He stayed quiet, didn't interrupt, didn't react. But I noticed the way his eyes stayed down, fingers laced together, gripping the strap of his backpack a little too tightly. He was holding something in. Eventually he spoke. Asked me, "Why didn't you call? Why no emails? Why didn't you come sooner?" I stayed quiet for a few seconds, looked out toward the row of rain-soaked trees in the distance. Then I told him that the day I got out of the hospital, I received a message from his mom. The message said the kids didn't want to see me, that it was over, that I shouldn't come back. I told him I didn't know if it was true, but at the time I believed it. Not because I didn't love them, but because I thought, if someone had to get hurt, it should be me, not the kids. After a pause, I asked, "How's Lily doing these days?" He said she's fine. But the way he said it, quick, clipped, without detail, told me otherwise. She wasn't fine, and maybe neither of them were. Maybe they were both just trying to survive in a world where adults only see what they want to see. Then he told me Mom said I left, that I didn't choose family, that I chose the military over being a father. I didn't react. I didn't deny it. I just told him, "There's a lot you haven't been told right." We sat a little longer. As I got up, I placed a hand on his shoulder, just instinctively, but he flinched hard, not out of anger, but pain. His shirt shifted slightly, and that's when I saw it. A deep purple bruise along his shoulder, dark, wide, like something had grabbed him too hard. I didn't say anything, didn't ask, just looked. He knew I saw it, and instead of covering it, he looked right back at me. He didn't say a word, but something cracked in his eyes, like the walls he'd built were starting to give way. There was no explanation, but there was no denial either. Everything I needed to know was in that look. The pain, the injustice, the fear he didn't know how to name. I told Noah to give me a little more time. Just a little. I didn't say more. Didn't over-explain. But that was enough for me to know. My son was still there, under all the armor, still hoping someone would show up for him. And I still had a job to do. Not as a husband, but as a father. That night, I told Erica everything. She wasn't surprised, just frowned slightly. She said we had to move faster. If there were signs of physical harm, this wasn't just a financial dispute anymore. This was a matter of child protection. The next morning, I reached out to Calvin, asked him to comb through every security feed around the house, from our neighborhood's gate system to public cameras nearby. Anything that could confirm who was entering the home, who was spending time with my kids. Marcus sent more intel. Turns out Derek had been taking Noah to some weekend training sessions. No Sophia, just him. A few times Lily was with them too, but mostly it was Derek and Noah. The school's exterior cameras captured everything. That evening I texted Noah, told him I wouldn't let anything bad happen to him again, that he just needed to give me a little time, that I came back to protect our family in the only way I know how. He texted back 3 words: "I trust you." I held the phone for a long time after that. A few days after we met, I got a message from Noah. He told me Derek had lost it the night before, all because Lily did poorly on her biology test. He yelled at her in front of everyone, then turned to Noah and gripped his shoulder, hard, like he was trying to prove a point. Their mother said nothing, just stared down at her phone. Noah didn't react, but this time he took a photo of the bruise and sent it to me. No explanation, no caption, just a silent confirmation. "You didn't imagine it, Dad." The next morning I went straight to his school, found Donna, the nurse who had recorded an earlier shoulder injury about 3 weeks ago. I told her plainly, my son was hurt again, same spot. We needed it documented. She checked the record, then nodded. She wrote on the form, "Minor presence with contusion on left shoulder, consistent with significant force. Previous similar incident noted. No follow-up recorded." I took the paper. My hands didn't shake, but my throat tightened. That afternoon, I met Noah again, at a small diner near school. I handed him a battery-powered recording device, voice-activated. It didn't need to be retrieved or manually triggered. I just told him, if possible, place it under the vanity in his mother's room, where Derek usually spends his nights. Noah didn't ask why. He already understood. The recorder was connected to Calvin. He monitored the audio remotely and flagged anything unusual. 3 days later, Calvin called. He had something, a 30-minute recording, captured in Sophia's bedroom. The audio dipped in and out, but the content was crystal clear. They were discussing how to speed up the move, how to leave before the court hearing, how to transfer the investment under someone else's name, and what to do if Lucas starts making noise. Sophia didn't argue. She nodded along, asked for dates and details. She wasn't just passive, she was complicit, like I had never existed. Like I wasn't the father of the 2 kids sleeping down the hall. I brought the audio to Erica. She didn't need to hear the whole thing. Just the middle section was enough, not because it shocked her, but because it cleared the legal threshold. We filed with the court immediately. First, we now had evidence that the children were living in an environment where physical harm was coming from a non-parent. Second, there was a plan to relocate the children out of the United States, without the legal consent of their father. Erica said the meeting with Sophia's legal team would go on as scheduled. No warnings, no confrontations, because in this kind of war, the first shot shouldn't be loud. It should be paperwork, delivered quietly, precisely, and right on time. I looked at the calendar. 2 days until the meeting. Sophia's side thought I was going to back down, but I wasn't there to argue. I didn't need to shout to win. I just needed them to understand one thing. I'm not standing aside anymore. The meeting took place on a Monday morning. The conference room was tucked inside a corporate building downtown. No smiles, no handshakes. The only thing in the air was tension. I arrived on time, with Erica by my side. They were already there. Sophia's attorney, a blonde woman in a gray suit, sat with the kind of overconfidence that bordered on careless. Sophia sat beside her, face carefully made up, but the worry still showed through the cracks. To her left was Derek, white shirt, navy tie, sitting like he owned the room. Erica opened with a brief overview. This was a meeting to discuss divorce terms, custody, and asset division, if necessary. Sophia's lawyer nodded, projecting openness to negotiation. I said nothing. Just opened the folder Erica had prepped and flipped through each page in order. Page 1, a photo of the bruise on Noah's shoulder. Page 2, the medical report signed by the school nurse. Page 3, an index of the audio recording, participants, timestamps, duration. Tucked behind that, a copy of the court-approved emergency travel restriction signed the morning prior. No one spoke for a few seconds. Sophia's lawyer furrowed her brow and glanced sideways. Sophia stared at the papers, her face draining a shade paler with each second. Erica stayed calm as ever, explaining the reasoning behind the custody modification request. Clear evidence of physical harm by a non-parent, and an active plan to remove the children from U.S. jurisdiction without the father's consent. Sophia didn't object. Her hands clenched under the table. Her back was straight, but her shoulders began to tremble, just slightly. Derek, on the other hand, started to shake his head, mouth opening to speak. But his lawyer gently placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. Erica didn't read the transcript aloud. She didn't need to. She only said one thing. All submitted documents are ready to be entered into court record, and if necessary, they will be made public at the hearing. I didn't speak at all. Sometimes silence hits harder than anything you can say. When you've prepared long enough, your composure is what shakes them. Their side started backing off. From a posture of negotiation, they shifted to requesting a recess for internal discussion. Erica agreed. She also proposed a follow-up meeting, with a court representative present. As we left the building, Sophia slowed her pace. She called my name, in a voice softer than anything she'd used all morning. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to hear what she had to say. I'd already heard everything I needed, through the bruises, the recording, and her silence when it mattered. I kept walking. The elevator doors closed behind me. The court scheduled the official hearing for next week. Preliminary session, no press, no public record, but still, enough to mark the beginning of a new phase, one where every testimony, every detail, every small mistake could leave a lasting impression on the custody file. Erica told me to prepare thoroughly, but honestly, the hardest part wasn't the paperwork. It was something else. I still hadn't seen Lily. Throughout everything, I only heard about her through Noah, that she'd grown quieter, that she preferred drawing over sports, that lately her sleep was restless, full of sudden starts and shallow breathing. But not once had she called me. Not one reply to the letters I'd sent over the past 2 years. I didn't blame her. I wasn't angry. Just sad. The distance between us hadn't faded over time. It had deepened. On Saturday night, Noah messaged me. Lily wanted to see me. No mom, no Derek, just for a little while. At the public library near their house. I arrived 10 minutes early, sat quietly in the children's reading section, where footsteps were rare and whispers carried. My hands rested on my lap, palms slightly damp with sweat. Not from fear, just the weight of not knowing where or how to start. Lily walked in, hair pulled into a high ponytail, oversized sweatshirt, old sneakers I remembered buying for her. She didn't run to me. She didn't turn away. Just sat down across the table, backpack resting in front of her, eyes on mine, steady. For the first few minutes, we said nothing, but I could tell she was watching me, not judging, just trying to measure something quietly. Like she was asking herself, is this still my dad? I told her a few small stories, nothing serious, just little memories from when I was her age. How I used to feel lost around adults who always thought they were right. I didn't bring up Sophia, didn't mention Derek, not because I was avoiding it, but because I knew those names were already too loud in her life. What Lily needed wasn't another accusation. She needed a safe place. At the end of our time, I handed her a small notebook. No message, no suggestion, just blank pages. On the first page, I wrote one line. If you don't want to talk, you can write. She looked at me for a long time, then nodded, barely. Just a slight tilt of the head, so subtle an outsider might have missed it. But I didn't. Lily had opened a door, even if it was just a crack. On the way home, Noah texted me. He said Lily hadn't said much after she got back, but she pulled the notebook out, flipped through a few pages, then slid a pen inside. She hadn't written anything yet, but she kept it close. Sometimes healing doesn't start with an apology. It starts with a quiet space, just big enough for someone to sit in. The court scheduled the hearing for Thursday morning. I arrived 30 minutes early, not out of nerves, just to give myself time to breathe. The courtroom wasn't large, no seats for the public, just the judge, attorneys from both sides, the appointed guardian, and any relevant witnesses. I sat on the left. Across from me were Sophia, Derek, and their lawyer. Sophia wore a beige coat, hair in a high bun, eyes steady but with palms pressed flat on her knees. a habit she had when trying to stay calm. Derek hadn't changed much, still sat like a man who thought he was in control, though his eyes no longer held the same certainty. The judge was an older woman. Her voice was steady, neither warm nor harsh, completely impartial. She made it clear. Today's hearing was not for a final ruling, but to assess potential risks related to custody. She requested all responses be brief, truthful, and straight to the point. Erica spoke first. Clear, precise. She submitted the documents, medical reports, injury photos, school health records, and a breakdown of the recorded audio. Not the recording itself, just timestamps and excerpts. It was enough to justify a formal investigation if the court saw fit. Sophia's attorney pushed back, claimed it was all speculation, that no video showed Derek using physical force, that their family was planning a vacation with the mother's consent, that Noah might be emotionally confused by his father's sudden return. The judge didn't react. She simply nodded and asked for Noah to be brought in. The door opened. He walked in calm, more composed than anyone else in the room. He took the middle seat, eyes focused on the judge. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at Sophia. The judge started with the basics: name, age, school. Noah answered clearly. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. When asked about his relationship with his mother and Derek, he paused. Then he spoke, about the shouting, about the grip on his shoulder, about the way his mother said nothing. There was no exaggeration, no bitterness, just stories, told exactly as they happened. The judge then asked, "If you had a choice, who would you want to live with?" Noah went quiet for a few seconds, and then he answered, not with anger, not with guilt, just with the voice of someone who'd seen enough. He said he needed to feel safe, not just quiet, safe. A place where he didn't have to tense up every time footsteps approached his door, where his sister could sleep through the night without waking in fear that someone would yell and their mother would let it happen. He didn't say, "I want to live with Dad." He said, "At Dad's place, I don't have to stay alert just to guess who's going to lose it today." The room went silent. Sophia didn't cry, but her lips turned pale from pressing together too tightly. Derek looked down, arms crossed. Their lawyer offered no further argument. The judge gave no expression. The hearing ended after a little over an hour. There was no immediate ruling. Just a note: continued monitoring of the children's home environment and a temporary restriction on both interstate and international travel until a final custody decision was made. As we walked out, I gently touched Noah's shoulder. He didn't turn around, but I saw the way his hand tightened around the strap of his backpack. We didn't speak. But in that silence, I knew he had just stood up for himself, and I had just taken another step forward to truly becoming his father, not just by blood, but by presence. 3 days after the hearing, Calvin sent me a new recording. This time, it wasn't Noah who planted the device. It was Lily. She had quietly slipped it into the drawer of her desk, still cluttered with old sketches and unfinished math worksheets. She didn't explain anything, just handed the memory card to Noah and walked back to her room. When I asked, Noah simply said, "Lily said, let them listen. No need to keep retelling it." The recording was over 40 minutes long. No hitting, no screaming, just a conversation, or more accurately, a long monologue filled with accusations. Derek's voice, sharp and rising. He talked about the hearing like it was a slap in the face, as if Sophia was no longer his partner or ally, but a traitor who'd stabbed him mid-battle. There were no questions meant to understand, just a barrage of blame. Why was Noah allowed to speak in court? Why didn't she coach him to stay loyal? Why hadn't she cut off all contact with me completely? Why did she let the useless vet bring in a professional attorney? Each question was a drill boring into silence, no answers expected. Derek's voice started out controlled, then began to fracture. Sentences frayed. Breathing grew heavy. His words became a slurred tangle, like a machine overheating. That she was weak. That she was ruining everything. That if they lost custody, their entire Costa Rica plan would collapse. That if everything fell apart, she'd be left with nothing, except 2 kids who chose someone else. There was no shattering glass in the background, but his voice cracked like a window under pressure. He didn't need to yell for the panic to be obvious. It was the familiar sound of a manipulator losing his grip. The same voice I'd heard from desperate men in final interrogations, when every card had already been flipped. Sophia didn't argue, but I could imagine her face listening to that tape. Not the face of someone shocked, the face of someone finally seeing the shape of the darkness they'd been living beside. She barely said a word, a few broken phrases, some half-hearted pushback, mostly silence, but not the silence of denial or numbness anymore. It was the quiet of someone slowly waking up, of something inside her slowly stepping away. That night, Noah messaged me. Derek had smashed a picture frame in the living room, after finding an envelope from the court monitor. Lily was so terrified she wouldn't step into the room. Sophia called the police. No arrests were made, but there was a formal incident report. When Erica looked at the copy, she said just one quiet sentence. Men like Derek don't need enemies. They just need time to expose themselves. The final hearing took place on a Friday morning. There were no reporters, no audience, no noise, just the judge, both legal teams, the court-appointed guardian ad litem, and me. A father who stood on many fronts, but never one that made his hands feel this cold. Sophia arrived 5 minutes late. Her eyes were sunken, makeup barely there. Derek wasn't with her. Her attorney opened with emotion I hadn't expected to hear from their side, a formal request to reconsider custody, this time in favor of the father. Erica didn't speak. She just nodded once, quiet and knowing, as if she'd seen it coming all along. The judge asked to hear from the child advocate, who had been observing the children over the last 2 weeks. Her report was calm but firm. Both Noah and Lily were emotionally affected, she said, but showed significant improvement while staying in my care. Their sleep patterns stabilized. They ate regularly. There were no behavioral flare-ups or signs of anxiety. What they had in my home wasn't just structure, it was safety. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't look at Sophia. Not out of anger, just clarity. I had stopped waiting for something redemptive to come from her. I told the court I wasn't there to win my kids back like some legal prize. I came back because I couldn't stand by any longer. A father doesn't prove himself with paperwork or timing, but by standing his ground when everything else falls apart. Then it was Sophia's turn. When asked why she had initially insisted on full custody, she sat tall, eyes slightly distant. Her voice, when it came, was slow but steady. She said that when I left, really left after the accident, she thought I was never coming back, that she had to become everything, all at once. And so, she began to act like I didn't exist, not physically, but emotionally. In her mind, she had buried me. She admitted she let Derek into the family too quickly, that she believed at first he could fill the void. But the deeper they went, the more out of control she felt. And by the time she realized it, she didn't know how to undo the damage, so she kept going. One more day, one more excuse, and every step forward became just another way not to turn around. Her voice cracked only once, at the very end. She said, "I thought I was keeping the kids close, but really, I was just keeping them away from him." No one said a word. There was no need. Erica didn't need a rebuttal. The court didn't need clarification. The judge rendered her decision clearly and decisively. Full legal custody would be awarded to me, with scheduled parenting time for Sophia, supervised for the first 3 months. The no-contact order for Derek remained in full effect. Any out-of-state or international travel would require mutual written consent. 3 weeks after the final hearing, I received a civil court notice. It concerned the $200,000 Sophia had transferred from our joint marital account to a fraudulent real estate venture under Derek's name. Earlier, Erica and I had filed a parallel petition alongside the divorce proceedings, alleging misappropriation of marital assets and financial misconduct during separation. There was no dramatic courtroom scene, just paperwork, evidence, and an internal review. But the outcome was clear. The court ruled that Sophia had overstepped her legal authority by moving joint assets without consent. It was considered a form of property dissipation, possibly enabling investment fraud, even if not criminal by statute. The judgment required her to repay the entire amount, plus a 20% penalty as a civil sanction. Recovering the money wouldn't be simple. Derek had vanished. The Costa Rica development? Gone. Like it had never existed. Sophia had no choice but to sell her car and liquidate a portion of her inherited stock portfolio to begin repaying the funds. I didn't feel vindicated. No joy, no satisfaction. But when I read the court's ruling, I felt something quieter, something steadier. Justice, not loud, not dramatic. Just a clean line drawn between right and wrong. A boundary set so that what was taken would be returned. Not as revenge, but as balance. As Erica closed the case file, she said softly, "Betrayal begins with trust, and sometimes it ends with the right signature in the right place." I moved into a small house about 10 minutes from the kids' school. 1 story, 2 bedrooms, a backyard, and a row of trees lining the fence. Not big, not fancy, but quiet enough that the kids could hear their own breathing at night. Noah picked the room on the left by the window. He said he wanted the morning light on his face so he wouldn't need an alarm clock to wake up. Lily didn't pick a room. She just held her old notebook, sat down at the desk, and started a new drawing. She didn't say anything, but I knew. She was trying to breathe again in a place where she didn't have to watch her back. The first 3 months passed without noise. Each week, I took the kids to visit their mom according to schedule. Sophia kept things calm. No tension, no fighting. It felt like she understood. Whatever battles had been fought were behind us now. And the only thing left to salvage was her presence, offered quietly, with no expectations. One day, Lily handed me a folded piece of paper. Inside was a short essay she'd written for her language arts class. The prompt was, "Someone who makes you feel safe." She wrote about me. There weren't any poetic lines, just simple things. Rainy nights, the sound of my shoes left at the door, the smell of warm porridge when she had a fever, the way I never asked her to talk about things she wasn't ready to share. Her closing sentence was just 1 line. "At Dad's, I don't have to pretend." I read it 3 times, folded it back up, didn't say a word. That night, I stood outside in the backyard with a mug of cold tea in my hand. I looked up at the light spilling from 2 windows, one with the quiet tapping of Noah's keyboard, the other with the soft glow of Lily bent over her sketchbook. Both windows were slightly open, as if ready for someone to walk in, but still private enough for each of them to be who they really are. I don't know how much of this I got right. But for the first time in years, I don't feel like I need to prove anything to anyone. Not to Sophia, not to the court, not even to myself. I just need to be here and not leave again.